Hello, I just wanted to come and talk about the Scorpio full moon that we're experiencing right now. There's two things on my mind most heavily. The first is that the context is everything. And the context that I'm living with myself right now is the truth of forgiveness and the truth of unconditional love. These are ideas still just for me. This isn't a reality that I am living deep enough into yet. With that said, I do think it's the only way forward. Astrology itself is a never ending way to turn the jewel, as Adam Alabas has said. And it's an incredible practice of seeing the truth. But the thing is, the truth is infinite, and there are so many things to see, so many things to care about, so many things to find meaning in our lives. So, how do you actually feel? How do you actually have a grip on your life and feel like you're moving forward in the right way? Well, I think it's really just about having a solid center and recognizing that that center is empty. It can only be filled with unconditional love. Okay. Again, it's something I'm still living into myself, but I think for so many people, for humanity at large, it's time that we change. It's time that we change, and it's time that we forgive ourselves these unconditional love and forgiveness first and foremost must apply to the self. And it does show up in the astrology. We have Neptune in Aries with Saturn making its new phase to that Neptune. And so we are building out our own strength in deciding in this present moment, which is Aries, that we are worthy of our own unconditional love. And this is a full moon, unlike any other, to so specifically put our pulse right where it hurts, essentially, where we've potentially been avoiding things, um, but also just into the muck and into the darkness. And it's very emotional. It's very emotional. I didn't like looking at it many weeks ago when I first saw it. Um, Scorpio is the hardest, I would say. It's the hardest place to be because the point isn't to feel good. The point is to change in Scorpio. And the more change you need to make, the harder it's going to be to see it. And this is a full moon that we want to see very clearly, that we have to see very clearly. And what we have to see clearly is not only Scorpio, of course, the Scorpio area of our chart, which is the unseen stuff, the stuff that is compost, that's dead, but that is just a part of life as what is alive. But we have to look at the Aquarius part of the world because that's where Pluto is right now, the ruler of this full moon. And it's not just about what's dead, right? It's about the locus of power, the where we are concentrating all our power on, which ultimately is not the truth. Okay? The truth is still unconditional love, but right now we are feeling such a forced push to change in a way that we've saw coming. We've all seen it coming. But it's still really hard. And it comes down to this Pluto in Aquarius, which is about a new community that we are in at this point, which is, I'm saying new community because the ruler of Pluto, Uranus, has just stepped into Gemini. This is a new rulership of Pluto, which means it's a new community, and it is a varied way of using our minds to engage that community. So we're done with whatever this past was, and now we have to take responsibility for the opportunity. It's a clear social opportunity that is in front of us right now. And the Scorpio-ness of it all at this full moon is really saying, yeah, we're in the muck. We are in the muck this whole time, and we've got another several days of this, I would say. And it is scary, and I think that's part of the point, but fear is the killer of the mind, and it is not to be trusted. Whatever you're authoring is what is to be trusted, but this is not a time to dig deeper or to sit with yourself deeper. It's a time to let the darkness be seen so that you can move it. Um, Mars is in Aries, which means we are moving, we are taking action, and yet it's in this conversation with Jupiter, which is really challenging. And I think that's part of the reason why, if you're still feeling stuck at this full moon, it's likely because of this square to Jupiter from Mars. And it's this very strong and challenging interplay between our impulses and our home. Quite literally, you can literally think about your family, your home, and what you want to be doing right now. And they're at odds with each other. The specific oddity going on is that we know we can't act in the same way anymore. This Mars and Aries is all about our impulse, instinct, action, and we can't act in the same way towards our home anymore. We have to change. But this is a very, very tricky aspect because we don't know what the change looks like yet. All we know is that everything we've been doing can't continue. Okay. And it's going to be a few months before we're going to start feeling like we know what's the right move to move forward. So, what do you do in the meantime? What do you do before these opportunities actually come? Well, you have to hold. You have to hold space for yourself. It doesn't mean digging deeper. It means holding the tension, doing what you need to do in the midst of it and not holding yourself to a vision of yourself that is beyond this present moment. It is to be so completely where you are that you can hold all of it. You can hold your emotions, you can hold the reality of the situation. A huge teaching that's been coming for me is this reality that reality is just as spiritual as spirituality. The unseen and the seen are the same. We don't need to bypass the material world in order to understand something about the spiritual world. They are all here. They are all here right in front of us. So there's nothing to bypass. Okay. So I don't know how this is helpful, to be honest, because I'm finding this to be an incredibly challenging ego perspective full moon. But again, that ego is very important. Reality is enormously important. It's as important as the spiritual path. There's no difference in these two. The context shift that I'm wanting to share about is the one of unconditional love for yourself, for other, for your family, and allowing it all, forgiving it all, loving it all, and recognizing the reorientation in what is life for, is that's what's being answered as we make this change. And it's not even being answered intellectually, it's being answered in the way we're living our lives. It's no longer a ladder climbing situation for the sake of, it's a living out who we are right here, right now. It's manifested faith, not lip service faith. So it's hard. I'm having a hard time at this full moon. But it's the type of gateway where on the other side of this, we're changed. And I don't know exactly what the other side is, right? But we're changed. Like there's no going backwards. There's no going backwards anymore. Pluto's not going out of Aquarius. Uranus isn't going out of Gemini. Neptune and Aries. It's not going back. Like no one's going back anymore. We only can go forward. So if you're beating yourself up, if you are just in a world of sadness or in a world of disappointment or feeling an immense amount of pressure, you have to do both. Take action and hold. Take action and know that it might not be the long-term solution, and hold. Hold yourself. When I was first looking at this full moon weeks ago, all I saw was that this Taurus sun felt very strong to me intuitively for some reason. Venus in Gemini. Everything is boiled down to this Mars and Aries right now, which is why the shadow and the light being the sun, the shadow being the moon, everything is ruled by this Mars in Aries. Everything is being ruled by our actions. So there's an enormous amount of, what is the word that I'm looking for? Autonomy, moves that we can make. There's so many moves that we can make. And yet the weight of this moon, the psychic, emotional, financial pressure of what you it's one thing to see physical manifestation of having what you need in the present moment, right? It's another thing to connect so deeply to trusting that that will be maintained and reliable. Scorpio ultimately is about trust. So there's a big exposure of where we're not trusting ourselves at this full moon. If you're feeling into that, and the only answer that I have is trust and unconditional love. And of course, action, because there's no backwards going anymore. So nothing that you can even do, you can't even replay the past anymore. It's not that you could even make the wrong decision anymore or that you could make the decision from the past. It's not like I just don't see it as even being possible. So I think if anything, keep yourself moving forward. Let me look at this chart. The other thing that I haven't talked about at all in any of my videos recently is this Venus, the ruler of Taurus, in this square to the nodes, which is intense because Uranus is also coming to square the nodes. And this is a very, very stuck energy right now. I think as Uranus is coming to square over the next few months, it's a very, very stuck energy. Very, very stuck energy. What is it stuck between? Well, we're stuck in our minds. We're stuck in our minds. We're stuck in our minds. We're stuck trying to do things in the past way, trying to resolve things through more analysis. But in evolutionary astrology, what this is really saying is that we need to resolve Venus and Gemini through the North Node in Pisces, which is ultimately just faith. Talking about our faith, talking about the love and the infinite relationship that we have to God and to prayer, and like actually like being open to that and listening and being in conversation instead of trying to write, which is Gemini, trying to communicate in a Virgo way is much more and analytical and open to the problems and like trying to be perfect. We can't be perfect here. We just need to have faith. This Venus resolving through the North Node, to me, is very much so like throwing spaghetti on a wall instead of trying to perfectly make spaghetti. Like you have to boil whatever you have and throw it on a wall and see what sticks. Yeah. And then absolutely the sensitivity is just kicked up so much because of Mercury with Chiron today, which is about this wounded sense of self that we are communicating. The Aries new moon was also at this point, and so there's something that we are really, really aware of and able to communicate at this time. Um, but again, it's ruled by this Mars Jupiter square, which to me is really, really, really tough. Mars Jupiter in this last quarter square is it's like grinding your gears because Mars in Aries wants to be external and move something, but in a last quarter square, it's an internalizing function. It wants to stop, basically. But so much is riding on this Mars. But this Mars really wants to has to stop doing things the way that it's done it before. Even sorry if it's really noisy. Even before Mars knows what to do. Mars is really intense in this way. And right now it's just very difficult, I think, to feel so much like backpedaling of the self, even though we know there's something big starting that we want to be taking the reins of. We want to be taking responsibility for it. We want to because we see all of this. We see all of the gunk, all of the stuff that's in our way, but all of that is also the like deeper trust and the source of power that's going to let us do that. It's hard. This is a weird full moon. Over the next day, the moon will come to trine Jupiter, which is very nice. But there's still something that is so uncomfortable. And of course, we have this square to Pluto. But guys, it's another last quarter square, which means that like somehow we have to throw off this fear because of the changes that are happening in our community, in our minds. We have to throw off this fear. In the same way, we have to throw off this action. Like it is such a weird circulating time. I don't know how else to put it. Um, but I'll end just once more by returning to this idea of unconditional love and forgiveness for the self and resetting the goal um, to be just that, which is forgiveness. And I'll probably say it till I'm blue in the face or dead in a ditch somewhere. I don't know. But even the most meaningful things in our lives, even the promise of the natal chart, if you will, the dream that you have, even that is not yours. Like yours, I'm speaking to you, the empty soul that can do anything. How can we be one thing pursuing one goal while we are also the dark emptiness of everything? And that brings me back to this idea of holding both. The sacred marriage of having it and wanting it at the same time, not feeling like you're polarized one way or another, which is very much so the Taurus Scorpio axis. Having it is Taurus, wanting it is Scorpio. Marry these two. Find where you have what you want and revel in that at this full moon. Like, if you're feeling out of balance in that way, it's a Pluto thing, which is an Aquarius thing, which is essentially the way that your brain is working isn't helpful. And the minute you start using your brain in that more helpful way, others, like your actual literal manifested reality of your brain outside of yourself, which again is Aquarius in the neural network of our brain, and then in the communities around us. Change the way you think, your community shows up differently also. Okay, that's what I wanted to share. If you want to get a reading with me, it would be incredibly helpful at this time, I think, for everyone. So check out my booking link. If you want a time that I don't have listed available, get in touch with me either on my Instagram or my email. And until then, much, 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 much love and goodbye for now.